Okay, so I would like to welcome to one of the first sessions of the e-tutors qualification of 2021. I'm very happy to have you here as listeners, and before we start with the topic communication in the virtual space in occasion of the VALEU-X project and the co-founding of the Erasmus Plus program, I will show you our agenda at first. So our first point we are talking about today is the online communication. In a second point, we are moving to the media choice and computer mediated communication. In short, it's called CMC. Then in the third point, we're talking about the CMC, so computer mediated communication features. In the fourth point, about the CMC modes, and then about communication tools, and last but not least about the selection of communication tools. But let's start with some definitions, some terms to define. So at first we need to perceive in the online communication the internet as a medium. So I will read a citation. If we conceive of communication as symbolic interaction, then media can be seen as means of communication that enable intentional sign processes between people across spatial, temporal or spatiotemporal distances, and in such a way that understanding can take place. Media technicize, reproduce and modulate symbolic processes of this interaction. It's a citation of back 2006, an older one, but to just keep up with the actuality of this presentation, also the definition of media from Beck and Junger 2019 will be read right now. So media as technically based science systems that are used in the social coexistence of people for the purpose of understanding in an institutionalized and organized form. So the term media is derived from the Latin word medium, and this means the middle or the mediator, and it's also used in many ways in everyday life. It's a collective term for communication media, in particular for the various current journalistic mass medias like newspapers, magazines, radio or televisions. So at first let's have the look at the online communication. From the point of view of sign theory, these are not different media, but a combination of differentially coded data or multicode. So the combination of differently coded data or multicode in a nonlinear overall text is like linked if differently coded data and different character systems are strongly linked, like in hypertext or hypermedia. So the media character of online communication, at first it can be considered as a technical medium, so for the transmission, for the processing and storages with technologies. Then second, the markup of and programming languages, as well as applications such as web browsers or email clients as a basis to enable processing or the presentation of different character types as well as their combination. But it can also be characterized as a sign system. So there is no different media. It's a combination or differently coded data or multicode within the media. It's a non-linear or whole text which is maybe linked, and there is a strongly interlinked differentially coded data and different character systems which can be found in the hypertext or hypermedia. For the second point, in the online communication media it can be characterized as an organized medium. A considerable organizational effort has to be made so that we can, for example, make phone calls or even watch the television. It requires organizational and sometimes legal definition of who can use a medium, when and to what extent, what messages may be transmitted, and in what form this should or has to be done. And finally, it always has to be regulated. Who bears the costs and the responsibility for the use of medium, and who may operate such a medium at all. As an as an organized medium, yes, it can be considered as a extremely complex organization. So we have diverse layers implemented by different organizations. There is an access provider, so technical access to the communication or telecommunication networks. There is a service provider, so the provider of specific services like a mail service, a social networking service, your chat program, your WhatsApp, your social media. So there's a lot of service providers also in the spectrum, and the content provider. So we have the access, the service, and the content, whereas the content provider has the legal responsibility for the content provided. Also, it can be seen as an institutionalized medium, so starting from habits to the information of permanent set of rules, like institutions, right? So we have some basic rules for basic manners, like in here it's called a netiquette, or a legally binding framework like copyright or the protection of minors. So yeah, all the points which are in this institutionalized medium important are manifested into these points. Okay, so now let's move on to our second topic. This one is called the media selection in the CMC. So just to get it back in the mind, CMC stands for computer mediated communication. And the rationale from this point, so a rational choice of media is always made when in a concrete situation one chooses precisely the medium that best meets the factual and social requirements of the communication task. So it's appropriate. So it's a rational choice, the selection of the medium that best meets the factual social requirements of the communication task. So you make this by your mind. Then the basic idea is that mediation impoverishes interpersonal communication, and this can also be done by the rationale of the choice of media. So the second point is the social presence. So it has a regard to the extent to which a conversation partner is perceived as a natural person when communicating via electronic media. And it's decisive for perception. So it's non-verbal and paraverbal parts, such as gestures, facial expressions, and intonation you can do with your voice when speaking. But it's also the clothing and the appearance of people. So yeah, what is the first thought when you're entering the room? And how does this change when you're entering a virtual or digital room? So there are other expressions, other things that can be seen, that can be perceived by you regarding the social presence of your students, of your professor, of your partners. Okay, so there's a very, very important theory in the computer-mediated communication, and this rationale is called the media richness theory. You can see here at the slide a short picture of the media richness theory with the two axes. Like on the x-axis you have the complexity of the communication task, and on the y-axis you have the medial richness. And media richness addresses the ambiguities that arise during communication. So the better a medium supports the processing and handling of ambiguous information, the richer it is. So this definition is from 1984 to 1986. It's a really old one, but still valid. So just to keep that in mind, pure information deficits can be counteracted with media poor in media. So for example, a round email with a notification or a postponement. However, when it comes to complicated communication content, where it is not clear which content is relevant and how it should be evaluated, a media-rich medium is necessary. So, to clear that problem, we need a media-rich medium. For example, at the beginning of a project, a face-to-face meeting of the participants is held to clear up any ambiguities and to take up suggestions for realization, for which a media-poor medium, such as an email, is not suitable, and communication would not be equally efficient in this case. So, for example, if you were to schedule a video conference, or even a face-to-face meeting to announce the aforementioned schedule change, this would also be less efficient than a circular email. Keep that in mind. So different tasks, like you can see here on the left side of the slide, can make the use of different media richness appropriate. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about your next meeting or your next virtual action. So here we can also see some examples with a newer form. So we are like in the memes section here, where you see the first meme on the left side. This guy who looks not very amused and just states when the meeting could have been an email. So this is the point where too rich media has been taken for a very small amount of information. It was such an overload for the participants. Then let's have a look at the middle. In this meme, he also states if that meeting could have been an email, that'd be great. So he's really not amused about that. And also you can see here the guy from the famous Kung Fu films, Jackie Chan, who just survived another Zoom meeting that could have been an email. So these are all negative examples where too rich medias have been taken for just implementing as a very small amount of information. It could also occur the other way around, but we have some more theories here regarding in the computer-mediated communication. So the next rational theory is the media synchronicity theory, and there are 5 factors of media which are important in this space. So at first it's the immediacy of feedback, so the possible speed of a response. Yeah, do you need 1 minute or 10 days to give an answer to a student or to someone who wants a feedback from you? Second one is the symbol variety, so possible ways of conveying information. In a point, the parallelism, so the number of channels on which people can communicate simultaneously in different communication processes is really crucial. And also the revisability, the possibilities for contribution revision, and last but not least the reusability, so the possibilities for the reuse. And media use is dependent on the communication process the groups are in, as also seen in the media richness theory, and convergent processes serve to condense information, like to eliminate ambiguities in a high synchronicity, but divergent processes serve to transmit or distribute information. So it's a reduction of uncertainties and needs a low synchronicity. So we really have some differences here, but let's see what else can we consider regarding the media selection in computer-mediated communication. So a normative and interpersonal media choice can also be made, but normative, remember, is no rational decision. For reasons of prestige, a medium with too much richness is sometimes used. Due to this prejudice, a medium with optimal social presence is avoided. So a media choice influenced by social norms and operating competences is not a rational decision. So it must harmonize with social norms of the reference group, e.g. the colleagues at work or the students which are in another group or so on. And this is also influencing the choice of media. But we have another point which is called interpersonal media choice, and it's aligned with the counterpart. So it may evade individual media presences, in example, not reading emails regularly, or impose certain media choices. Of media communication depends on consensual negotiation of media preferences, and the deviations from rational media choice can be explained by personality dispositions, for example, shyness, socio-demographic characteristics, for example, age, media experiences, evaluation, and the acceptance of different media, so perceived as useful, user-friendly. So, media features on the computer-mediated communication. In our third topic, there also can occur some group communication problems. All the information that at least two people have in a similar way is part of shared knowledge. Information that only one person has is called unshared or distributed knowledge. So, technical problems can occur with the classical hardware or software problems, but also acceptance problems can occur. Another point is the lurking, so the difficulty in getting group members to participate actively in network-based scenarios at all. Also the lack of ability to select the right tool for a given task is often considered as a technical problem within computer-mediated communication of the groups. So also there are some deficits in knowledge sharing, which can be achieved by improving meta knowledge of the group members and by a heterogeneous group composition combined with a clear distribution of roles. So this really needs to be also addressed on the instructional level, the deficits of knowledge sharing. Under the text-based conditions, less unshared than shared knowledge is exchanged, but also compared to face-to-face situation, less shared knowledge is contributed. And under video conferencing conditions, no less unshared than shared knowledge is exchanged. And compared to face-to-face situation, less shared knowledge is contributed. So, also there are further group communication problems regarding the lack of social cue stimuli. So there's a depersonalization of the individual, which leads to uncontrolled communication and violent, emotional, so-called flaming. And also reduced feedback opportunities make a consensus makes it very hard to build a consensus within the groups, and this also could lead to further conflicts. Then we have problems due to the lack of a common ground, so creating common ground. Shared task understanding is more difficult in computer-based environments due to the lack of non-verbal clues and the lack of social clues. By masking status differences, for example, participation becomes more balanced and group members focus more on task-related versus social aspects. When interpreting results of the kind described, however, it must be taken into account that they were all obtained ad hoc groups. Many of the effects found there disappear when longer established group works are examined. In groups that work together over a long period of time, status differences are maintained, for example. So this is also connected to the time a group works together. Overall, smaller, dense networks with a high degree of reciprocity and group membership proved to be quite suitable for the exchange of complex and personal information among routine network users, whereas in large networks with rather loose social ties, only the exchange of less complex information runs smoothly. So, let's have a look at the last general approaches featuring the media features of the computer-mediated communication. So general approaches who are used here on the one hand is a social awareness. This means a personal information about members of the group, for example, illustrated profile effects, especially in the perception of the group feeling as a whole. And then we have also a action awareness. This can be relevant especially in distant situations when group members do not know each other, as this reduces anonymity. However, one author, he's called Kress 2005, was able to show that a reduction in anonymity does not automatically lead to higher participation. So it's more to be seen in a holistic view where other influencing factors also can stress out the result in the end. So what is action awareness? It's information about the activity of other group members leads to an adjustment of one's own behavior, and one info that the other group members are very active, or their own activity or your own activity, and your own activity with the info that the other group members are little active. So there's different perspectives from which the action awareness can be seen. So for participants with social orientation, the inclusion of social awareness leads to lower participation. To coming back to the other point where it's not an action but the social awareness, and the explanation for this could be that the group feeling is reduced by the perception of differences. For participants with individual orientation, however, the reduction of anonymity had a positive effect. They showed higher participation in group activities when portraits of the present group members were offered. So now we are coming to the very interesting part, to chapter 4. It's called the modes of the computer-mediated communication. So we have different configurations which allow a differentiation according to the number of communication partners and their structure. So as you can see here on the left side, we have the one-to-one communication. It's a direct communication, it's a direct message via messenger or email. The second one we have is the one-to-many approach. So one person writes an email or an info post, or maybe if you want to put it on the level of social media, you can make a broadcast in WhatsApp or so ever, and bringing this information from one person to many people. The other way around, if you have to look, it's the so-called many-to-one configuration. So many people bring information together in a bundled and prioritized way to inform one person, which may is a feedback evaluation or also a request for feedback. And this may be the most important configuration of communication you will also use during your work as an e-tutor after your qualification. The last one is the many-to-many configuration, where we have like in discussions, forums or social media comments, you know, when you're posting something, 2-3 of your friends are answering, and you and your mother are answering, and so on and so on. So this is really a somehow chaotic approach then. Okay, so let's have a look at the configuration many-to-one. We have here, you can click the link below and find it in the slides, a implementation by the Airbus study, and technology plays a crucial role in the implementation of many-to-one. So in the example of the Airbus case study here, employees can publish their feedback on an interactive platform integrated into the intranet. Intelligent search algorithms automatically compare this feedback with existing feedback, and combined with the effects of swarm intelligence and also intelligence of the masses, many individual feedbacks are bundled into a few. The result is a ranking of bundled feedback behind which a large number of employees are gathered. Now, for example, comments can be made on the most 5 concerns per week from the management. The following advantages result from a many-to-one intranet solution. The creation of relevance through collective feedback. Also, the suitability for arbitrarily large numbers of participants and the mobilization of the silent majority, so people who may think, we should do this and that, but never talk about it. So this is also a very important point. As open as possible, as controlled as necessary, continuous opinion radar and targeted agenda setting. And also it's a dedicated management tool for important strategic issues of the company management. Keep that in mind. If you want to know more about this model, please have a short look at the Airbus case study. Coming here to the temporal and social order criteria. So this is the first slide. We are addressing now this topic, and we have like synchronous forms of communication here. What is that? So synchronous or simultaneous communication is communication a partner reacts to each other in real time. So like when you're on the telephone, when you're on a face-to-face meeting, when you're in the video chat with a really direct conversation. It's location independent, also through modern ICTs, so information and communication technologies, and it's in direct exchange between different persons or groups, and with a permanent internet connection required. The advantages is it enables a tangible presence to directly answer questions or conduct meetings, and topics can be quickly resolved, but like every model has some advantages, has also some disadvantages, and these are the compulsion to react ad hoc. So you don't have any time to reflect the information you just received. You have to answer instantly, and this is also occurs a lack of controllability of the time spent within this communication. And can I control the length of the exchange? So how much time do you need to write an email about a certain issue? It's easier to figure out how much time you need for this email instead of when you call your colleague with this problem and have a synchronous conversation about it. You can't say how long it will take. Yeah. So in the second part regarding the modes of computer-mediated communication, there's a temporal and social order criteria with the asynchronous form of communication. So asynchronous means non-simultaneous communication. So we have a response, but with a lag, like with a time lag. A very good example for this is a forum, an email, or maybe also a social media timeline where you post a photo of the lunch you've cooked last Friday and it looks very nice, and then time by time people are telling, oh, you have a great lunch, or this vegetable looks very delicious, and so on. And after 3 hours you're answering, like giving thumbs up or a heart to a comment and so on. It's asynchronously. It's not the direct answer. And also, asynchronous communication is location and time independent, and the exchange between different persons or groups of persons is fostered. What is the advantage of this? So, there is no need to respond immediately to a request or contribution to the discussion. You have a greater flexibility in terms of time and space, as well as the opportunity to take time. As well as the opportunity to take time and be more thoughtful in making a statement. But also it has some disadvantages. These are responses may arrive too late or be forgotten. Information may be harder to find, and the references of messages might be unclear, as written messages might lead to a misunderstanding. There's also a lack of consideration of whether information is truly important to others, like remember writing an email or receiving an email where you are only in CC. So sometimes it is not clear if there is a action required from you or not, or when you get some, this is for your information email, and you're thinking about, should I act now? Should I just consume this information and it's fine? So these are really points which can be seen as disadvantages. And also you have no control in which mood the message is interpreted. So you can maybe get in your mind to the communication model. It's called the 4 ears model of Schulz van Thun. And there is like you have a sender and a receiver, and the sender can send the messages in different modes, and the receiver also can interpret the message just received in different ways. But if you want to dive deeper into communication theories, check out the Schulz van Thun 4 ears model. In the next point, we are talking about communication tools, and to just start with some well-known tools, we have social networks and wikis. So let's start at first with the enterprise social networks. They're a collective term for all tools for the presentation of the own person and for the exchange and maintenance of contacts in a network. Their basic form is like illustrated profiles based on personal data. As a second point, we have wikis. So wikis is a collective term for simple content management systems. All right? So a wiki is a simple content management system. For online development of network content, it is readable by others and it's changeable by others. And this is really the very important point, that wikis are not just changeable by the first author, but everyone who reads the article can also apply and attend to improve the written article. And wikis are used for the establishment of individual knowledge platforms, also for content discussion and for linking conceptual worlds, dynamically developing knowledge networks. And the structure allows individual learning paths. So you have like crisscrossed landscapes. Please give a Google on that if you never heard of it. And also the random access instruction. Very interesting if you want to dive deeper in that. Just have a short look on a search engine, and it's very informative. Okay, so next communication tools. We have blogs and microblogs. So we have at first the web blogs, or just blogs, and they're composed of web and a log diary. They're regularly updated, downward chronologically linked online journals. So when you post a new article, it's the newest one of the timeline, and the further you scroll down, the older the articles are. And it's used for research on current topics, also to make a further evaluation of new findings and accompanying learning and project diaries. But these are just examples. You may know from your personal experience with the internet that there are a bunch of other possibilities how to use a blog. There's a special form of blogs. It's called microblogs or microblogging, and it's a very short form of blogging. So it's focused on exactly one statement. Its contributions thereby quick to capture, and it's categorized via hashtags. So may half of you already have in mind, right? The best example for this one is a Twitter. So for example, in Germany we have our over 900,000 people who are active Twitter users, and the maximum length of only 140 characters, not words, characters per message. So you have to be really on point with the information you are distributing there. But for what it is the microblogging / Twitter used for? So it's for communication, for sharing current and actual information, and also for expert networking and broadcasting short information on point to a broader mass of people. Then we have also media sharing forums and tools. So we start with the forum. What is a forum? It's a virtual space for asynchronous exchange and achieving thoughts, opinions and experience. And the specific main topic divided into several subtopics with their own directory subforums. So you have different subforums with different topics, but a forum mostly focuses on a specific topic. Like we are making an example, you have a car forum, it's about cars, and then you have a subforum about BMW, a subforum about Mercedes, and a subforum about Fiat, and then you may have a technical subforum, and so on and so on. So you really see it's like from one big topic making different branches, but this is normally the spirit of a forum. And you have continuous posts, so regarding to each other you get answers, you can ask a question, but you're always posting this in a specific topic, in a specific thread of the forum. And forums are used for the advice on a specific topic, discussions about specific topics, or professional exchange and news. And you may remember the talk about synchronous and asynchronous media use, and if I ask you now if the forum is asynchronous or asynchronous, you may figure out the right answer. It's asynchronous. The next one is the media sharing tools. So it's all applications for sharing different kinds of media. So for image material, for example, Flickr, for presentations, for example, SlideShare, for video material, you may know YouTube, or for audio material, for example, the extension educational podcasts or SoundCloud or other tools in this case, and they are used for the research and correct topics on the further evaluation of new findings and the how-tos and tutorials. So the next one is the project management tools. So we have on the one hand tools for collaborative work which allow multi-authored text, tables and presentations. These are mostly platform independent and allow multiple people to work on documents. In this case, synchronous or asynchronous or cooperative or collaborative, and they're used for document exchange, parallel editing, trace and undo changes. On the other hand, we have project management tools, so they serve really for planning and pre-structuring of projects, and they support project management tasks and operational project work. And it enables collaborative project management through a very clear representation of who has what to do in which time. Okay? And also it's a central data storage. And it's used for the distribution of tasks, setting milestones, and may, but not always, including files. So, we have now talked so much about different communication tools, but which one is the right for me? Or which one is the right for you in your case? So, we need to somehow reflect on the selection of communication tools. So we need some recommendations for the use of synchronous communication. Synchronous media should be used when there is an unclear level of knowledge of the counterparts. So if you need a quick clarification of facts or questions, and when it's unclear how well the person contacted knows about a specific topic. It's also very good for joint or quick decisions with a good relationship of trust within the team. So in case of time-critical tasks or projects, waiting times and blockades maybe can reduce by a quick conversation in a synchronous way, so face-to-face or in a video chat. But synchronous communication is not recommended when you're in the case of a mistrust or uncertainty between the dialogue partners, because there is no time to reflect your answer or your reaction. And this may lead to more conflicts than in an asynchronous way. So this is not recommended at this place. And also a very good point to use the synchronous communication is when you're communicating with new partners for like kind of scanning. So as an early form of communication to get a better picture of each other and to better assess each other in terms of the competence and personality. So these are really the points where you should use synchronous media or may avoid it. So now coming to the counterpart regarding the selection of communication tools, the asynchronous media. So asynchronous, so not synchronous, is used when you need much, when there is a high need for explanation or a high complexity or a high competence gap. So if topics are very difficult to survey or written explanations are more efficiently, as you can just read them again and again and think about and reflect, as mentioned before, and also your counterpart can look things up. And the topics are not critical in terms of time. So you have like 1 hour or 10 hours. It does not matter. You have your time to reflect and give an answer in the asynchronous communication way. So communication at the personally preferred time. So you can write at 3 in the night or at 5 in the morning. It's up to you when you feel comfy. And also there is a need, when there is a need for documentation or low confidence. So what is written down remains verifiable. You know, when you have written your thoughts down, everyone can read it again. You can send it via email, via chat, via this, via that. And in case of doubt, it can be clearly proven who handed over which instruction or information. And you can like following the way the group or you went when working together on this written communication. Okay, so then we have also some recommendations for the use of messenger services. So likewise, the way you deal with working hours sometimes differs greatly. Some people don't mind if you communicate on business outside of core working hours. Other people don't want to have that at all. So asynchronous, the reason is that messengers have a difficult form to structure. So everything is stored in a long term or in a long stream of messages, and so searching or looking up becomes very tedious. For topics or information that's likely to be reused multiple times, email is a better communication choice. Task management, email is a better choice. In addition, a messenger message, for example, can only be stored in a productivity system or corresponding conversation history into the task. An email, on the other hand, can usually simply be forwarded to the appropriate tool. So we would recommend you to decide for a mixed form. So it's important and essential to success that rules and the preferred messenger are defined. So it's like defining within your group, within your space of communication, especially when you use it professionally, you should define from the beginning on which tools, which messenger is used, which mix of tools maybe, and what are the rules of communication there. Also, the coordination of times of availability as well as the handling of working hours should be crystal clear for all participating people. Then, for the synchronous point, both at the same time in Messenger, quick coordination and documentation at the same time versus short consideration time and disadvantages of written communication have to be in mind. Also, from the asynchronous side, no simultaneous action feedback time scheduled, only available, and simple topics to be discussed quickly. There is a high risk of confusion, topics and information expected to be used multiple times via email. So both of them have their advantages and their disadvantages, and the best way to cope with that is a hybrid usage or a mixed form. Now we are coming to a very interesting point when selecting the communication tools here, to just give you an overview what's there, what's out there, and what you can use for the selection of your communication tools. So what you can see here is the so-called social media flower or social media prism or spectrum. It's a little older. It's not from 2022, it's more like from 2018 or 2017. So maybe some services you see here are not that popular anymore, but it gives you a great overview about different types of tools that can be used. So regarding the selection of communication tools, you can see here in the more green part, there are some tools for pictures, for social bookmarks, but also then when it's getting more blue, for collaboration or for blogs, for blog conversations, and so on. You can see here on the other side, coming from green to yellow, we have the pictures again, but then the wikis who are collecting pictures but also text. We have some music platforms for events, for documents, for contents, but also having ecosystems, micromedias, live streams, or also SMS, forum, social networks, and so on. And here in the last edge, you can also see there are some services for reviews and ratings, for videos and customer services, and so on. And these, when you are selecting a tool, to just round it up, you have to consider what is your team doing? What does your team need? At which stage is your team? Is it Are there only new people, or is it a long-term group which is working together for 10 years? How is the previous knowledge of the participants? Not just with the content delivered in the course, but also with everything around that regarding the usage of social communication, of communication tools, of maybe social learning tools and other things. And regarding all these points there, you have to make a decision in the end which tool fits the best for you and your computer-mediated communication. So we are now at the end of our first presentation. If you want to have additional information, please also check our sources. We have also deployed the slides on the platform for you. And thanks a lot for your attention. You can find more information about the project on www.value-x.eu, or more information about the Chair of Information Management here at the link deployed in the slides. Thank you very much. My name is Mathis Altmann. I'm here for the VALEU-X project funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the EU. Thank you very much and enjoy the further qualification. See you soon.